On a cold, windless night in the high desert of Colorado, the cliffs seem to breathe. The moonlight clings to their faces, tracing every crack and shadow. Down in the alcoves, tucked into impossible ledges hundreds of feet above the canyon floor, stone walls glint faintly, like ghostly teeth in the jaw of the earth. These are the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, silent now, yet once alive with the hum of life. The air carries the faint scent of juniper and sandstone dust, but if you close your eyes, you might almost hear the low murmur of voices, the rattle of corn in woven baskets, the laughter of children darting between kivas. And then, like a whisper stolen by the wind, it's gone. For centuries, this high plateau, its edges broken into deep canyons and towering cliffs, was home to the ancestral Puebloans, a people whose story stretches across hundreds of years, yet ends with a mystery still unsolved. They left behind some of the most spectacular ancient architecture in North America, but also a question that has haunted archaeologists for more than a century. Why did they leave? Let's step back to the beginning, long before the cliff palaces, before the stone towers rose like sentinels on the canyon rims. Around 550 CE, the first farmers began to settle on Mesa Verde. The name Green Table in Spanish came much later. Back then, this was a land of promise. Rich soil atop the mesa, springs hidden in the canyons, and game in the forests. These early settlers built pit houses, semi-subterranean homes with walls of timber and earth, clustered in small villages. They tended corn, beans, and squash, supplementing their crops with wild plants and the occasional deer or rabbit. For centuries, life was steady. The seasons turned in their slow rhythm, planting in spring, tending the fields under the hot summer sun, harvesting before the first frost. Winter brought gatherings in the kivas, circular ceremonial rooms where firelight flickered over painted walls and elders told the stories of the people's origins. Then, sometime around 750 CE, a shift began. Pit houses gave way to above-ground structures made of stone and adobe. Villages grew larger, the architecture more complex. Defensive walls appeared, suggesting either conflict or a heightened need for protection. By the 12th century, the people of Mesa Verde had begun their most ambitious undertaking, the cliff dwellings. Imagine it, hauling sandstone blocks and wooden beams down sheer cliff faces, fitting each stone with the precision of a jeweler setting gems. These alcoves, carved naturally into the cliffs over millennia by wind and water, offered shade in summer, warmth in winter, and protection from enemies. They also created a community unlike anything else on the continent at the time. By 1200 CE, the cliffs were alive with villages of breathtaking scale. Cliff Palace, with over 150 rooms and 23 kivas. Balcony House, with its secret tunnel entrances and defensive walls. Spruce Tree House, tucked into a crescent of stone as if grown there by nature. The sandstone walls, plastered smooth, were painted with geometric designs and symbols whose meanings we can only guess at. From the cliff edge fields, the view stretched for miles, mesas, canyons, and the distant shimmer of mountains. Life here was communal, interwoven. Women ground corn into fine meal, the rhythmic sound of their stone manos against the medahates carrying through the alcoves. Men hunted and tended fields. Children learned to climb the ladders that connected one terrace to another. Smoke rose from kiva chimneys, curling into the high desert sky. And yet, beneath the hum of daily life, there was always the awareness of the land's fragility. The high desert is beautiful, but it is also unforgiving. Water was precious, stored in cisterns and gathered from seeps. Crops depended on the rains, and when the rains failed, so did the harvest. Archaeologists believe that around the late 13th century, something began to shift. Tree ring data tells a story of prolonged drought, years when the skies withheld their rain, when corn withered in the fields and the springs shrank to trickles. Hunting must have become harder, storage rooms emptier. Tensions between neighboring communities may have risen, and there is evidence of increased fortifications and even violent encounters in the region. Then one day, or perhaps over the span of a single generation, the people were gone. By the late 1200s, the cliff dwellings stood empty. No written records explain the departure. No oral history survives intact to tell us exactly why. Some suggest that the drought drove the ancestral Puebloans away in search of more reliable water sources, perhaps south to the Rio Grande or west to the Hopi Mesas in Arizona. Others believe a combination of resource depletion, social strain, and spiritual decisions led to the migration. Still others see evidence of conflict, raids from outside groups, or warfare among neighboring communities. The truth may be all of these, or none. What is certain is that the departure was not a collapse, but a migration. The descendants of the ancestral Puebloans, the Hopi, the Zuni, and the Pueblo peoples along the Rio Grande, still carry traditions and stories that trace back to these high cliffs. Today, walking among the ruins of Cliff Palace, you can still feel the weight of time. The rooms are roofless now, open to the sky. The plaster is worn, the paint faded, yet the precision of the stonework endures, a testament to the skill of its builders. In the kivas, the sipapu, small holes in the floor symbolizing the people's place of emergence, remain as they were, linking the living world to the spiritual one. When the sun sets over Mesa Verde, the cliffs burn gold, then fade into deep shadow. The wind moves through the empty windows, sounding almost like distant voices. You can stand there, looking out across the canyons, and feel the same sky, the same earth that those people knew centuries ago. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not why they left, but how they lived here so long, adapting and thriving in a landscape that demands respect. Their story reminds us that survival is not only about technology or power, but about community, balance, and knowing when it is time to move on. And maybe, just maybe, it also reminds us that even when a place is left behind, it is never truly abandoned, so long as its story is remembered. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the stone cities of the cliffs and into the lives of the ancestral Puebloans. What do you think? Was it drought, conflict, or something more spiritual that led them to leave Mesa Verde? Could there be lessons here for us, living in a world where climate and resources are once again shifting? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please like, comment, and share. It truly helps keep these stories alive.